Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about combining same number of polygon objects together. What I'm going to do is basically create a mock-up of a barrel from an old World War I machine gun. We're just going to combine these two. They're both set up at 18 sides, and I'm going to reduce the number of height segments because we do not need that. I've got cat segments set to 2 so that we can actually see what's going on in terms of how we can get our vertices lined up. And first things we're going to do is get our scene organized. So select both objects, and we're going to create a new layer. And then upon doing so, it will take our selected objects, put it in a new layer. Let's go ahead and rename our new layer. We'll call it gun. And let's take our base and go ahead and convert it right away to an editable poly. We'll lose our cylindrical parameters, but we'll get all our edit poly tools that we need. And then the next thing we'll do is we'll attach. So I right click, go to attach. If we use our pop-up window, it'll allow us to pick the explicit object that we need. Hit attach. Now it's one object. Let's go ahead and delete some polygons that we need. We don't need any polygons here, so if I hit click on the vertex, I can hold control and click on the polygon mode, and it'll convert the selection. I can hit grow to add that selection, and then hit delete to create the actual border. Go back to element, reposition as we need to. I'll go into the top view, make sure that we are heading in the right direction. So now what we need to do is we need to line up our vertices to match the big object to match the alignment of the small object. So what I'll do again, I'll go to vertex mode, and I'm going to click on that middle vertex, and I'll click on control to select it there, and then click back on the vertex mode, and it'll select all the vertices here. We are not moving the bottom vertices, just the top. I go here and position it and line it up exactly as I need to. The circumference of our cap is about the same as our smaller cylinder, so that's good. We'll just have a few little things to line up, and that's it. Hit scale just to kind of get it there, and then whoopsie, go back to vertex mode, and I'll delete that one vertex. And so now we have two borders. We have the border on the small barrel and a border on the big barrel. So let's go ahead and clean that up, make sure it's just lined up. Now, in a previous exercise, I was talking about how I don't use weld too often, but this is an actual perfect example of when I would use welds. What I want to do is select both borders, because we need to weld all these vertices, and I want to do it in one step. So I'm going to hold control and convert our selection back to the vertex. Now, if I go to the weld function and go here, our weld threshold is pretty low, and our distance is actually past that. So if I go ahead and just kind of edge up here, you can see how the vertices are starting to kind of line up, but it's still not clean enough, so we may need to do something else. Let's see what happens here. Checkbox. Actually, it worked just fine. It went from 36 vertices to 18, so everything is welded. And what I do from time to time to make sure, there's two checks. One, I'll go to element mode to make sure everything is one single element. So if I click on this, that means that the entire object is selected, which means it's one contiguous piece. And to see if there's any holes in our weld, I'll select border. And so if I do a quick click and drag and see that there's no holes in our border, to show what I'm talking about, let me backtrack and hit Control Z. So we got an actual right before weld, and I'm going to move one vertex out of the threshold range. Go to border, converter selection to vertices. Now go to weld. And now our welds are coming together. Went from 128 total vertex count to 111. I hit checkbox to say OK. We've got 19 verts, which means one did not get welded, and we got a hole here. So what I can do now, selecting by the border, I can see if there is any holes in my mesh, and clearly there is one right here. So I go to that vertex, and since I know where I need it to go, I'll hit target weld and just drag and drop to it, and that'll bring it together. And that is how we can combine equal number verts on two complex objects and get a nice, clean, airtight mesh.